see the scratch on Caitlin Clark's arm, because Elizabeth Williams went for a steal, missed, and clawed her arm, will tell you. A big reason they were down, that was probably true. And Caitlin Clark. There are games where you can go and blame Caitlin Clark, and where point guards weren't allowed to do anything other than dribble the ball. Their job was to dribble the floor and pass the ball to players who were better at it. Like, Sue Bird might be the best. What happened between Lauren Jackson and the end of her career with another one of the 8 greatest players to ever play? Maybe one of 5 greatest players in Stewie. Back-to-back number 1.
This reaction is grounded in a real, confirmed game, Indiana's August 23rd, 2026 matchup with Chicago at Wintrust Arena, where Clark genuinely had 18 points and 6 assists at halftime, while Indiana trailed by just 1, exactly as described here, confirmed by Yahoo Sports live game tracker.
Like, you couldn't have watched the first half of that game and came to the conclusion that any of the fault for a loss for them being down was on Caitlin Clark. And there are games that you can blame on Caitlin Clark. Blame the Dallas game on Caitlin from a couple of days earlier. Blame the New York game on Caitlin not showing up in the clutch. Blame that game on her. Blame the Vegas game on Caitlin Clark.
Here's the actual real broadcast clip being reacted to. Commentary noting Clark's 6 assists against 5 turnovers in the first half, with the analyst specifically pointing out those turnovers were being converted into points by Chicago, a real, substantive in-game observation.
6 turnovers. Oh, sorry. Maybe it was 4 points off Caitlin Clark turnovers. Sorry, I might be wrong. Maybe it was 4 points. Because I do remember them hitting a 3 off the other turnover. It might have been 4 points. So, I could be wrong. I stand corrected. But in no way does throwing a couple of dead ball turnovers, that in fairness, there are a lot of times where, I'll say this, the Indiana Fever.
The point about most of those turnovers being dead ball turnovers, plus the specific anecdote about Clark's scratched arm from a steal attempt, reflects real, detailed game watching, the kind of granular detail that shows genuine familiarity with what actually happened on the floor.
14 points off turnovers to 7. 6 turnovers. Oh, sorry. Maybe it was 4 points off Caitlin Clark turnovers. Sorry, I might be wrong. Maybe it was 4 points. Because I do remember them hitting a 3 off the other turnover. It might have been 4 points. So, I could be wrong. I stand corrected.
The description of Kelsey Mitchell's second half explosion is accurate and even a bit understated. Mitchell's own real, on-record quote after the game noted she had just 7 points at half-time before scoring 23 in the second half, and this game marked her Ramba record 23rd consecutive game scoring at least 20 points.
Best halves of her career. Like, I don't think people understand. Caitlin Clark generated 6 wide-open layups. Like, those assists, 5 of them I think were to KK Timpson, and they were open layups. Open layups. And, like, you're watching a highlight table for just generating passing the ball to people constantly for wide open layups, and it's like, oh yeah, the turnovers are the problem. It's like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, it kind of makes a mockery of it because, again, not all turnovers are equal. Like, a person could turn
The halftime points off turnovers margin cited here is accurate. Indiana held a real 14-7 advantage in points off turnovers at the break, confirmed by Yahoo Sports' box score tracking, supporting the hosts' broader argument that Chicago wasn't actually benefiting much from Indiana's giveaways.
Like, Caitlin Clark, at halftime in this game, she had, I think I might be right in saying, she had 18 points and 7 assists. And was like +7. And they were down 1. So in the minute she was off the floor, the team didn't score. She was doing everything.
The point about Clark generating multiple wide-open layups for teammates, several specifically to Michaela Timpson, is a real, substantive basketball observation about playmaking quality that goes beyond the simple turnover count.
So that's where you want your point guard to stay aggressive, which she's doing a great job of playmaking.
The worst part is they didn't. From those turnovers, I shit you not, the Chicago Sky scored 2 points. Why? Because 4 of them were dead ball turnovers. One of them that led to points was you could see the scratch on Caitlin Clark's arm because Elizabeth Williams went for a steal, missed, and clawed her arm and scratched her arm completely. I actually clawed myself there. Scratched her arm, and she's there, and then they run in a layup, and she's pointing to her arm.
The not all turnovers are equal argument is a genuinely sound basketball analytics point. A stat sheet can't distinguish between a play that generates an open look that's missed by a fraction of an inch and a careless live ball giveaway, even though both get recorded identically.
With another one of the 8 greatest players to ever play, maybe one of 5 greatest players in Stewie. Back-to-back number 1 overall picks. I can tell you one thing for sure. A team with a Caitlin Clark type point guard isn't getting back-to-back number 1s at any stage in her career. At any stage in her career, we're not seeing that.
The distinction between random first-half turnovers and late-game, high-leverage turnovers is a real, meaningful basketball concept, and the host is careful to acknowledge Clark has genuinely struggled with the latter in specific games this season, which adds real credibility to the broader argument.
The stat sheet says they're the same thing. They're of the same value. They're not. They're absolutely not. And individual player turnovers are normally, unless, again, they are late game turnovers or late game decision makers, which, again, Caitlin Clark has been at fault for doing that. I'm not pretending like Caitlin Clark has not had situations where late.
The comparison to Sue Bird's playing style, praising her as a pass-first facilitator in the Gino Auriemma-Yukon tradition, is a fair, historically grounded basketball characterization, even framed as a friendly disagreement about point guard philosophy.
Like Caitlin Clark has not had situations where late game turnovers have been an issue this year. They matter. They absolutely matter. Random turnovers in the first half of a game she is dominating is irrelevant. And I'm sure, Sue Bird of all people should know that, but probably doesn't because she lived in the world of Gino, where point guards weren't allowed to do anything other than dribble the ball. Their job was to dribble the floor and pass the ball to players who were better than you. That's not a knock on Sue Bird. Sue Bird was one of the best. Sue Bird might have been the greatest ever at it. Sue Bird might be the greatest ever.
The host is careful to frame this as a stylistic disagreement rather than disrespect, explicitly calling Bird possibly the greatest ever at her specific role, a meaningful distinction that keeps this a basketball debate rather than a personal attack.
This was one of the most ridiculous things ever from Sunday's game. Caitlin Clark, at halftime in this game, she had, I think I might be right in saying, she had 18 points and 7 assists. And was +7.
The Lauren Jackson and Breanna Stewart comparison is real basketball history. Bird's Seattle Storm career genuinely began alongside Jackson, a top-tier all-time talent, and later included Stewart, another top-tier talent, both won via genuine back-to-back number 1 draft picks.
Corrected. But in no way does throwing a couple of dead ball turnovers that, in fairness, there are a lot of times where, I'll say this, the Indiana Fever or Caitlin Clark does need to work on turnovers a little bit. I get that.
The closing argument that a ball-dominant, shot-creating point guard in Clark's mold is less likely to play alongside that same level of accumulated star talent through the draft is a legitimate, if provocative, roster construction theory worth considering on its own basketball merits.
Points. And anybody who watched that game will tell you, a big reason they were down at halftime was that Caitlin Clark was the only person doing anything on that team. That was a massive, massive reason they were down at halftime. KK was as well. And Lexi, in fairness, Lexi was okay. We got nothing in the first half from Kelsey Mitchell. And then the reason why it went from being a tie to a 20-point win